In the beginnings of rock and roll, there was the blues. And it was good. It was heartfelt, it was gritty, it was real, it was raw. Just one man, or woman, and their guitar, 3 chords and the truth. It was called race music, black music. It stood in stark contrast to the swill of the time that played on the radio. It was called pop music. It was white music. Pat Boone, the Flamingos, Johnny Mathis, Paul Anka crooned their way up the charts. It was gutless and soulless and saccharine sweet. It was about as creative as prepackaged plain bubblegum rolling off an assembly line. But the hip white kids, they knew something good when they heard it. So they'd sneak into the black juke joints and the blues clubs, where the people danced and played with freedom and passion and intensity. Most famously, an underage white kid in Memphis would crawl through in a back window to such a place. He soaked up the rhythms, the attitudes, and the raw sexuality of the music. He incorporated it into his own musical background, which included gospel and country. He had a charisma and a style that was uniquely his own. He moved in a way on stage that many would call obscene. So obscene that he would only be shown on television from the waist up. He would be called the King. This blues music, born in America, played by the descendants of slaves, would spread all over the world. And years later in England, a kid named Keith bumped into a lad by the name of Mick at a train station. Their talking point? The blues records by American artists like Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf that were tucked under Mick's arm. It's nice to meet you, mate, but where'd you get those records? It's for you, man. While the adults scorned it, this music would be immediately embraced by youth, both black kids and white kids alike, and many fought against it. They protested it, they even hated it, and their fear was rooted in ignorance and resistance to change, and it would take many, many years for the walls to start crumbling down. Crossover artists, black and white, R&B charts, pop music, they began to apply less and less, until eventually it was just rock and roll. Edgy, vibrant, speaking of the times, to the times, and about the times. About love and hope and sex and dreams. Soaring, soothing, inspiring, educating, and liberating. And the story goes on. Experience more of the story, sign up for History of Rock and Roll. Let's get it going next year.